This edition of the Justin Robert Young Podcast is brought to you by The Contender, the game of presidential debate. Now, normally I just tell you about The Contender, how great it is. Here's the deal, though. This week and this week only, we are recording this on a Monday and not a Sunday, so you have one day less than you would have otherwise. We have made our politically incorrect expansion available. This was a Kickstarter exclusive. Okay, it was only supposed to go to Kickstarter people, but the biggest complaint that we've gotten on this game is that this expansion is not available. Well, for 1 week, it is. 50 cards, including 4 new topic cards, all the curse words that were originally going to be in the game, and then we took out when we realized how easily we could make it family-friendly. It's here. It's here for you. $10, thecontender.us is where you need to go to make sure that you get it before Friday. Because once Friday rolls around, man, that thing is gone. And by everybody who supports us at patreon.com/JuRY, it is where we get the money to do this very show, as well as completing the best bargain in the internet. That is this show. The JuRY Show, the General Interest Show, the Politics Show as well. You get that for free. This week, we even did a bonus JuRY episode where we read all the excess X Gon' Give It To You emails that we couldn't fit in to this version of the show because they're just so long and so good. Go ahead and check it out. You want to sample the wares? Patreon.com/JuRY is where you can find all this content. If it motivates you to go ahead and support us, then please go ahead and do it. Anything helps. Thank you so much to everybody who has done that. That is patreon.com/JuRY. Let's go ahead and start the show.
But that's fine, 'cause you're pretty ugly by most people's standards, but you're alright by mine.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We have returned to the same bat time, same bat channel. This is the Justin Robert Young Show, the one mic podcast that is your pulse of what I'm thinking. A lot of people say it's impossible. Brains can't have pulses. And then you say, well, really, if you're sticking to the very rigid definition of blood flow, then maybe. And then you realize that nobody has any idea how brains work, and you go back to sniffing glue. Hello, everybody. My name is Justin Robert Young. I will be the guide for you throughout this program. We've got a lot to cover here for you. I just got back from Ohio. Went to go visit my wife's family out there in central Ohio, the Mansfield region, to be specific. Always a good time. Nice hanging out with everybody. But, I Ashley yelled at me. Well, she didn't yell at me, but she's admonished me for getting a little. There are little gripes that I have. Okay, I have some gripes, and they're things that I've talked about on the show before. They're not new. Okay, like they're just there's things that I've said that I can't take back from saying. And Ashley's point to me was that, Justin, you can't say these things because a lot of people are involved in what you're talking about. You can't use such harsh language. I can't say things like, if you live in a snowy climate, you are a masochist, and if you're raising children in a snowy climate, you're child abusers. Like, I can't see. She says, Justin, that's inflammatory. You can't say it. It's not appropriate. I've lived in the Sun Belt most of my entire life. Born in Texas, raised in California and Florida. Now I live in the Bay Area. For a few years of my life, I lived in New York State, both upstate and the city. I had to deal with snow. I realized then that after giving it a fair shake in a 5-year trial of my life, I've come to solid evidence-based conclusions that snow is the worst thing that's ever happened. Like, listen, Ralph Waldo Emerson, you want to just run around and kiss nature on the neck and whisper sweet nothings to how amazing it is? Well, guess what, jerk? Snow's terrible, and you know it. Whoever is out here talking about the magic and splendor of snow, I like it when it snows. No, you don't. No, you don't, and you're lying. I got a little trip for you, huh? A little magical, wintry tradition. How about you go ahead and take your little fingers, huh? How about you take those little piggies and you type into Wikipedia Stockholm Syndrome? Bet you that's why they named it Stockholm Syndrome, because it snows so goddamn much in Stockholm. Does it snow in Stockholm? I don't know. All right, so I don't like snow. I hate it. I hate everything about snow. I hate driving in snow. I hate dealing with snow. I hate the fact that it's cold. I think I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again. I said I lived 5 years of my life in the snowy hinterlands of New York State, and 4 of those, rather, were spent in Syracuse University, upstate New York, central New York, CNY, till I DIY. I mean, I guess there's a lot of do-it-yourself up there. Anyway, I'm there. I'm a freshman, live and direct from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Man, you can smell the suntan oil and 50-year-old guys trying to pick up on 18-year-olds still on me. That's how fresh out of Florida I was. Next thing you know, it's a lovely fall evening, and it starts snowing in Syracuse. You know how you know it's about time for it to start snowing in Syracuse? It's 2 weeks before Halloween. That's why. Gets cold early, it stays cold late. So next thing you know, man, do I look out my window and I see a Hallmark card, folks. Just drifting down from the heavens, little shimmering particles. And I press my little nose up against the window and I say, oh my God, guys, look, it's snow. Everybody else that goes to Syracuse are either from New York, New Jersey, or Long Island. Yes, I listed Long Island as a separate place. If you don't know, now you know. So everybody there, they've seen snow their entire life. Yeah, whatever. I'm like, dude, we got to go out. We got to go out. We got to go out and play in the snow. So I rally everybody. You're all freshmen in college. Everyone's looking to make bonds with each other. They're looking to find a life raft in a sea of chaos. So they say, sure, let's follow the passion of the Floridian outside into the snow. I take one step out of the Lawrence and Residence Hall on the campus of Syracuse University in Syracuse, New York. I take one step in my tread-worn tennis shoes, and I slip and I fall. And it's at that point, ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you this, that there was a point where I was entranced and enamored by this meteorological phenomenon. I couldn't wait to go and bask in its glory, and it all changed in an instant. One clarifying moment when I lost my balance, my feet went into the snow, and I made a realization that wet socks are a thing. And it was at that point that I realized there is no saving this. There is no such splendor. There is no amount of nostalgic good memories that you can associate with the fact that when you walk out in snow, your socks get wet immediately. And I don't care if you wear... Tony Stark could go out in snow in full... hermetically sealed Iron Man bio armor. And that dude would get wet socks. I don't know how it happens, but it does. It's crazy. It's an insanity. Why do people do it? I don't get it. It's because at some point, a bunch of people landed in the East Coast of the United States and they said, okay, well, this seems pretty cool. Let's just stay here. They got kids and they had kids and they had kids and they had kids and they had kids. And now here's we are. Right? Just move. I swear to God, we're going to, in 70 years, we're going to look at snow the way we look at smoking. We're going to look at main characters and period pieces out conversing in the snow. Well, hey, Ed. Oh, okay. Hey, well, how you doing, Bob? And we're going to say, oh, my God, can you believe they lived so miserably back then? When we're in our big Wall-E chairs, just big butterballs, just high-fiving each other because we're in perfect climate-controlled areas the way that God intended. Smash cut to God. Well, I did, you know. We got a great show. I have I want to open up a line of dialogue between this podcast and the service industry workers of America. I'm going to talk about Oscars. Specifically their whiteness, and we're gonna do another little run here for the fact that I am headed to Iowa in less than 2 weeks. But until then, I want everybody to know that you can email the show at justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. We will be right back. Oh man! So we're in Ohio the last couple days, and one of Ashley's sisters works in a restaurant. So it brought a lot of these restaurant feelings back to me because I, for several years in my life, in my childhood, have been surrounded by and involved in and working at and an employee of restaurants. Step family owns a couple restaurants out there in Pittsburgh, specifically Middle Road Inn and Willie's Tavern in Glenshaw and Wexford, specifically. So if you're out there in the Burg, you can all get together, enjoy a cold brew, and curse the name Toussaint together at those fine watering holes. And my first job I got was working at a pizzeria in Davie, Florida, specifically Tower Pizza. Went on to work at a couple restaurants in that area. So the big thing that winds up getting talked about when everybody talks about restaurants is tipping. Tipping. A lot of people say, oh my God, I wish we could live in a civilized environment where we no longer have this archaic end-around system for rewarding wait staffs. I wish we could just go to a world where there's no tipping. You could just include it in the check. And now you're not worried about whether you're under tipping, whether or not you're over tipping. You're not worried about offending your server. You're not worried about making a stand because a lot of people's anxieties do not make that a more pleasurable experience in going to the restaurant. And I got a name for people like that. People who have never worked in a restaurant and have never waited tables. Now, sure, you're going to find some folks who are going to say, hey, I worked in a restaurant. I'd prefer if I just didn't get my tips and instead got paid a better wage. And maybe the culture would change so much that we could begin to look at service industry professionals a lot like the rest of the working class that deserves things like vacation days and a better health care if they get health care at all. Now, I think that that is all well and good, and I think that there are some good points to be made there. But what often gets lost in this discussion is something that I am sure everybody who has waited at table, everybody who has ever worked at a restaurant, let alone worked at a restaurant for many years, knows. And that is, restaurant managers are among the shadiest class of human being I have ever known. I am going to put drug dealers, on average, have been nicer, more respectable, more honest human beings than restaurant managers. They are, by and large, and I don't want to just totally dump on an entire class of people because I've met many. Again, my family runs restaurants. Managing a restaurant is very hard. But for whatever reason, we like to think of restaurants the way that we think of banks or we think of accounting firms, right? A restaurant, every restaurant you've ever been to, from the most podunk Chili's to the one stall pizzeria to the fanciest steakhouse to whatever you head into San Francisco, go to Shizen, vegan sushi to beat the band. Mwah. All of them are kind of like pirate enterprises. There is just a lot of general, a collection of misfits and ne'er-do-wells and people who can barely get a job and people who have had this job for way too long. Just walk in. If you have worked in a restaurant, you know this to be true. You look to your left, you look to your right, and it's a lot more like the usual suspects than you'd like to admit. It's a lot more like a bank heist movie than you'd like to admit. There's the grizzled old veteran, the rookie you're not sure you can trust, the one who drinks too much, the wild card who you never know which side they're really on. People leave and they come in rapid succession. So when you say oh, okay, well, no, I work at an office or I work retail, I know what managers are like. No, you don't. You don't. There is an expectation in an office manager to follow certain kinds of protocols. Also, the idea of an office job or a retail job, understanding that every once in a while you have peak sales hours. What they don't have is a peak sales hour twice a day, every day, if you're open for lunch. Now, what happens when pressure comes around? Well, it forces people who are of weak moral character to begin exuding their baser natures. People yell at each other. People get fired randomly. People slam heavy or sharp objects. And beyond that, as soon as you have understood that a restaurant is a constant vortex of chaos, you begin to have this life after the end of the world kind of behavior that just sort of bubbles up to the top. People cheat on their significant others with people who work at the restaurant. There is excess drinking that happens. And here's something that I've seen, trying to be fair here, in 90% of all restaurant managers I have ever known or worked under. Every 90% of every restaurant manager that I have either known or worked under has done this one thing. Hit on the underage hostess. Now you might say, Justin, that's a little weird. Why is it that all the hostesses are underage? Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's because there is a systemic issue where restaurant managers who do the hiring at these positions keep bringing in 15-year-old girls. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know where it started. I don't know why it's there, okay? I don't know. I'm not here for the answers. All I'm doing is telling you what I've seen. And this has happened with frightening consistency and regularity. All of a sudden, you're, let's say kitchen screws something up. You got to run back to the manager, find out whether or not you can comp that entree, right? Because they got to go into the computer, beep, bop, boop, comp it. So you're all around. You're looking for the manager. You check the office. Oh, no, the manager's not there. You check over by the kitchen, where maybe they're helping out. No, the manager's not there. Oh, you check out the floor, right? Make sure maybe he's making the rounds, doing the, hi, is everybody having a good time tonight? No, not there. Not on the floor. Where's the manager? Huh? Where's the manager? I'll tell you where. He's up at the front, busying the hostess who's 15 years old and is just trying to figure out how this Snapchat filter works while he says, well, in my day, I really liked New Kids on the Block. That's where the manager is. That's where he is every time. And eventually you stop looking in the office and you stop looking in the kitchen and you stop looking on the floor. You just go right to where that iPhone with only one direction little jailbait is. And that is where the restaurant manager will be found 110% of the time. So what does this have to do with tipping? What does this have to do with tipping? Here's what it has to do with tipping. To say, let's eliminate tips and let's just have them go into the salary of your server means that the restaurant manager gets to decide how that split up is. You have also now eliminated the immediate benefit of a restaurant getting popular. Let's say a restaurant, due to the service and the food, begins to get very popular. That means more people come in. That means that the next day after its popularity explodes, the servers see a benefit. If you take that away, if you take tipping away, now you are putting it in the hands of these shady dealing, jailbait swarming, pirate scumbag class of weirdos to decide, oh, no, I think that it's time the servers got a raise. They've been working real hard after all. They don't know. They have no idea. They're just trying to cheat on somebody with a 15-year-old. We're going to talk about liberal racism coming up. We're getting some questions here in the chat. Tech Guru says, is it only in the fancy restaurants that managers actually come around and ask how things are going? No, it should be every restaurant. I think I've seen plenty of Chili's and Panera Breads where the manager comes out and says, hey, how you doing? I used to work at a sweet tomato salad buffet where they did that. That's actually a good manager. That makes the customers feel good, gives them an outlet that's not the server to complain to if something's wrong or if they can make their experience better. It's just a good way to go about things. Jay Calhoun says, so are managers in countries where tipping isn't common different? See, this is where I don't know. I'm going to need y'all to write me in. All right? So European listeners, you work in the service industry, our restaurant managers, weirdos, and creeps. Maybe we're creating the problem. And beyond that, I want to start a general dialogue. This is, I know, a rich vein. The idea of all the chicanery and malfeasance that goes on at restaurants. Servers of the world, cooks of the world, busboys, runners, hostesses, holler at your boy, JustinRobertYoung@gmail.com. I want to be reading restaurant stories for the next 6 months. All right, let's talk about this. Oscar nominations have come in. And, man, there wasn't a movie about slavery this year. So, sorry, every black director and actor and actress. No room at the inn. I mean, listen, maybe next time do a movie about slavery or Martin Luther King or something like that about, the black struggle and experience. Because otherwise, oh, man, we got another Jennifer Lawrence nomination to get out here, and we're going to need to give Leo an Oscar eventually. So yeah, sorry about that. Now, this is a bit of a controversial issue, specifically because it involves race. The trending hashtag is Oscars So White, which is just going to be an amazing time because it's going to give free range for the host of the Oscars, Chris Rock, to make fun of everybody and make fun of their whiteness, which the crowd will love and they'll eat up because there is nothing that white people love more than black people making fun of white people for being white. Love it. Mwah! Oh, it's just the best. Everybody, oh man, George Clooney will just be red-faced, laughing so hard at the 13th Oscar So White joke. It'll just be like. In fact, it might be a scene out of Showtime at the Apollo. The white people will be laughing so hard. They're going to be just getting out into the aisles and rolling around. It's just going to be an absolute hilarious time. Chimera says, yes, dabbing their tears with dollar bills. They're laughing so hard at Chris Rock making fun of them. So I don't really, 2 points. Here's the larger, more retail point, and then we can get into kind of where some of this comes from. Larger point is, as far as the Oscar goes, I ain't seen a bunch of the Oscar movies, although I do want to make a point to see them this year now that I ain't on the road so much. But Creed should have got nominated. In a world where we nominate 10 Best Picture nominees, Creed was really good. Creed, as a movie, as in terms of film craft, Creed's the best Rocky movie ever. In terms of its technical capacity and competence, tells a great story. It's a really strong script. Creed is, and they certainly give him a backstory that makes it work, but Creed's about a rich kid who denies his rich kidness so he can box. What's the stake in that? Normally that's the villain. The villain in the movie is the rich kid who just decides he's going to be a world famous boxer. And then the kid from the other side of the tracks decides, hey, no, my sacrifice and my hard work is going to trump your money. But no, by the end of the movie, you're cheering really, 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 really hard for the rich kid who broke his mother's heart to beat a guy who's about to go to prison. He's got no joy in his life except for this boxing match. And we're rooting for the rich kid who broke his mother's heart to beat him and take that one morsel of joy away from him. That's a strong script. That's a great acting performance. I thought Michael B. Jordan should have got nominated for Best Actor. I think that script should have gotten nominated for Best Original Screenplay. And I thought that Ryan Coogler, who did Fruitvale Station and will next do the Black Panther movie, should have gotten nominated for Best Director. I thought it was really, really, really well done. All that being said, because I know there's other stuff out there like Beast with No Nation, Will Smith has got to be like looking around saying, like, I put on a ridiculous accent for a 2-hour movie about medical issues for nothing? Tell the truth. The truth. He's like, what? You people love accents. That's all you just eat them up. You're like, I love accents. I love accents and people being handicapped. I'm the Oscars. Yes, bring me it. Bring me people wearing silly wigs. Yes, silly wigs. I love it. Here's why this happens, by the way. Oscar nominations are not some gigantic plurality. They are not a nationwide search of what everybody thinks, and then you find out, by great commonality, you don't find out like, oh, this is what's worth it. It's not critics. It's people who make movies or made movies that are henceforth in the Academy of Motion Pictures and Arts and Sciences. It should come as very little surprise that that group, past and present, are extraordinarily white. They are. They're a white group of people. Now, is the fact that there were so few nominees of color indicative of the fact that there is a racial problem amongst that voting bloc? I don't know. I mean, I don't think that they are per se like Hulk Hogan racist, right? Like, I don't think, although, no, you want to know what? I do think many of them are probably Hulk Hogan racist. Like, when they're sleeping with their best friend's wife, they might drop the N-word a couple times. In fact, yeah, you want to know what? Hulk Hogan racist might be the best way to describe most of the Oscar voting bloc. In that they will swear up and down, and I probably even think in their heart of hearts they don't think of themselves as racist. But they're kind of what, liberal people racist, right? Like, they're not running around shouting the N-word at somebody for cutting them off in traffic, or they're not sitting on the bar stool dropping the N-word when describing the president, right? They're not that kind of racist. They're behind closed doors racist, or they're just, refuse to expand their mind. When I went to school in the Northeast, I got made fun of a lot because I'm from the South, Florida, what they consider the South. They didn't realize that you can go so south in Florida that you become, this gateway to Hispanic America and a bastion of Northeastern Jews. But people assumed, because I was from Florida, that I was from a racist area of the country. Tag on the fact that I had a high school diploma from South Plantation High School in Plantation, Florida, and it does you no favors, my friends. It does you no favors. And so I just assumed, well, I guess, yeah, I mean, racism, it's a Southern thing, and that's where you have all the, listen, man, like, all this news footage doesn't lie, there's a lot of fire hoses and, Alabama burning or Mississippi burning, whatever. I'm sure they're both burning at some point. You just have a feeling that, like, okay, I guess that's just what it is. And then I spent some time around people, here's where the weird, liberal racism's a weird thing, man. It is really odd. It's really, really tricky. Because a lot of the problem with liberal racism is that you have a group of people who believe that they have solved racism long ago. They're like, man, I learned about Martin Luther King when I was in 3rd grade. Not racist. Look at me and my not racist ID card. And they stop thinking about race and the other and privilege and all that kind of stuff, right? The building blocks of what is the modern racial discussion. And has been the racial discussion for many, many years. But just this idea that, like, hey, just because I have dismissed this topic does not mean that other people have dismissed this topic. So every year in Syracuse, and this happens around the country in all parts of this great nation of ours, around Halloween, people wear blackface costumes. And many times it is so they can better emulate even their heroes. They want to wear blackface so they can be Tiger Woods. They want to wear blackface so they can be their favorite athlete. They want to wear blackface so they can be Barack Obama, who they like, they respect. Except for the fact that they don't realize that the idea of blackface, right, is a racially disturbing idea and has a troubling history. So then you get this backlash. Well, how am I supposed to know? You're being racist for calling me a racist. He just gets into this weird labyrinthian level. And that's what I think is at play here with the Oscars, is that it's not an overt thing. It's just this refusal to have any idea that there might be a bias. That there might be, here, wild, crazy idea, there just might be a sense for you to find stories that appeal to you. And many times, whether or not we'd like to admit it, those fall on socioeconomic and racial lines. You just find more in common with those stories naturally. Now, does that make you a bad person? No, not necessarily. But if you are running a system for which has acknowledged that there's a problem with diversity, has understood that there is a racial imbalance compared to the population with as many people that are involved in it and the kind of projects that are greenlit within it, like there is within the motion picture industry, then maybe an understanding of that bias and taking another look or giving a second glance at things that you might not realize are outside of your initial comfort zone, maybe that would be good. Or you could just look at Creed, man. Creed was super awesome. We got your emails right after this. You can email the show justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. I'll tell you, people are like hating on Creed, man. Creed was, again, it's really hard. Really, 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 really hard to make that movie. It's a harder challenge than you might think. To just not make it a sequel, remake bait, to hit the same beats without, because I'll tell you this, Creed did a better job of following the script of a previous movie without it being as transparent as, or it did it better than The Force Awakens. And I love The Force Awakens. I loved Creed, but I thought it did a better job and it had a better soundtrack. Rue writes in, Nikki has been insisting for a while that I send this story in for you the next time you do an awkward sex story bit. It's short, unbelievable, but totally true and hilarious. Here's a story about how I almost became Harry Potter. Alan Rickman, R.I.P. R.I.P. Reading some awkward sex story. Rickman, Snape. I used to have a very sexually promiscuous lady friend. I had a night shift at work, and she offered to give me a ride. I owed her money for dinner, so it was convenient for her to give me a ride so I could pay her back. We ended up leaving way too early and having 45 minutes to kill, so we drove around our small town. She parked in the back of an apartment complex near a dumpster, her side facing the trash, my side facing the small forested area. She said to our main character, our protagonist, "Ever get head in a car?" I was pretty nervous, but I went for it. The thrill of getting caught was more, in the end, of terrifying than it was exhilarating. So it took several minutes for me to get into it. As I was finishing, my moans turned into a scream as the following took place. A loud crashing noise in the passenger window, my window. I finish, and thus my pelvis forcefully goes forward forcefully, reacting to the sound, and she bites my wiener. We both panic, looking around for whoever caught us. Nobody was around. She starts the car up, scared, when I look out my window and notice something. A crack and a small mark on the glass with a noticeable dent. I look around the ground outside, and I shit you not, there was an injured, disoriented, white owl. I was in awe. The little thing must have darted at the car from the woods and never saw the window. She looked over, saw it, just as in awe as I was. The owl collected itself from the dirt and walked around very poorly for a moment. We both cracked up over what happened. It was just crazy. She took me to work, and I walked around the driver's side to say goodbye. I passed her the money through the window and realized it looked like I was paying a prostitute. Pretty fucked up night. Rue, that's a great story. That's very, 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 very good. And I only wish that you'd married her, because that would have been an amazing, and that's how I met your grandmother. Chimera in the chat, and the owl probably died. Sorry. Well, come on. There was we had a fun little story. The owl did probably die. So R.I.P. Owl, R.I.P. Alan Rickman, R.I.P. David Bowie. Gabe writes in, I was wondering if you could give me some advice on journalism and podcasting, seeing as you do those things. So one of my goals this year is to write more and create more content. I want to start a sports website and eventually a sports podcast. I feel like there's a bunch of generic sports websites and shows out there. There's only so many times I can listen to the Dan Patrick Show, repeat the same headlines for 3 hours straight. Also, since Grantland was shut down, it's been really hard to find great content. And my other favorite sports podcast, Hang Up and Listen, is only a weekly show and doesn't provide written content. I thought to myself, why don't I just create the content myself? It's a great new endeavor that I want to take up, and why don't I start now? At the end, I just want to create content that's well-written, unique, and edgy. I'm not sure if you covered sports at all while you were in Syracuse, but if you have any tips on writing for sports journalism, that would be great. Like, for example, what's the difference between an editorial versus a column? Let's say I want to write about how shitty it was for Tom Coughlin to be forced to resign as Giants head coach, while a tough decision was the right one considering the trajectory the Giants have been on for the past couple months. Did Coughlin throw mad shade at Mara Mara's the owner during the press conference? Was it kind of justified? All right. So, blanket general advice. Just do things. Are you doing a thing today? It's that great scene in History of the World Part 1 where what's her face from the Golden Girls is talking to Mel Brooks, who's the stand-up philosopher who's collecting unemployment. What's your profession? Stand-up philosopher. A bullshit artist, huh? Yeah. Well, did you bullshit last month? No. Did you try to bullshit last month? Yes. Did you bullshit this month? No. Did you try to bullshit this month? Yes. Well, here you go. And she pays the unemployment. Did you do something last month? No. Did you try to do something? Yes. Just try. Just do something. It's the beautiful thing about the internet, man. Just create stuff. best thing you can do for yourself is continue to write without much of a thought on how you are progressing. Just get used to getting the engine going, the production engine, your feedback loop of productivity. The more you're doing, the more you tend to be able to do. Once you have churned out enough stuff, and spoiler alert, a lot of it's going to be bad. Soon as you've learned to do it, soon as you are comfortable doing it, then start looking at it and saying, okay, I get where that's good, I get where that's bad, I get where this is good compared to the stuff that I like. So just go. And that's for anything. That's for sports stuff. Sports is a very crowded field, but at the same time, it was a crowded field when I started reading, like Kissing Susie Colbert was a blog that I loved. It was really, really great. A lot of these, I started reading Deadspin when it first started with Gawker, and people that were just in the comment section now have careers writing. Why? Because they were good at it. And gosh darn it, people like them. And that is what can happen to you. All right, everybody, JustinRobertYoung@gmail.com. One more reminder. Again, politically incorrect decks on sale for the Contender, thecontender.us. 1 week only. Friday, this Friday, the someday. I forget. I guess it'd be 22nd, I think. Friday the 22nd, midnight, Oakland time. They go back in the vault. All right? So buy them now, $10, thecontender.us. Also, speaking of the Contender, me and John Teasdale are going to Iowa. We are going to have a great time. It is going to be super fun. We'll be doing a live version of this show from Iowa. So go ahead and follow us on our exploits at Contender Game on Twitter or Facebook.com/TheContenderGame. That about wraps it up for us. So, folks, if you find yourself dealing with a lecherous restaurant manager, if you find yourself not realizing that you might be a little bit racist, and that's fine. If you find yourself with wet socks thinking Justin was right, I need to get out of here. Well, folks, remember my voice as I whisper soft and sweetly into your ear to please no. Of course, you can find this podcast on Stitcher, iTunes, or some other stuff. Remember, rate, review, and subscribe. Email me at justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. Twitter and Instagram is Justin R. Young, and hashtag join the conversation at diamondclub.reddit.com.
You like the way you're dressed up? Do you like how your hair gets cut? Do you like when your friends fuck up? Don't you think you have had enough?
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.